My wife recently figured out my friend's wife was having an affair with me. 5 years ago, right after my divorce, I met this woman at a concert. She was a bit younger than me, but we hit it off and she wound up going to a bar with me and my friends after that show ended. It was a fun night and we exchanged numbers. At that time, I wasn't really using any social media except Facebook, and that was just to keep up with my kids' school and activities. So, we never friended, just texted each other. At first the texts were casual, a little flirty every once in a while, but nothing to suggest there was any interest in anything intimate. Turns out she only lived 20 minutes from me, but we never met up or saw each other. After a couple weeks of texting we figured out we were both going to be at the same concert again, but this time in another city. It was a guy weekend for me and a girl weekend for her. So, her and her friends met me and my friends before the concert. We did a little bar hopping together. Her and her friends were younger than me and my friends, and I was the only single one amongst my friends. My friends and I, noticed none of these girls were wearing wedding rings, so, we assumed they were all not married. They were all younger than us and there didn't seem to be much interest outside of being friends. That was fine. At the time I wasn't interested in a relationship anyway. After going to a couple bars, we went to the concert. Her and her friends had floor tickets and me and my friends had seats. I thought that was the end of it for that night. After the concert me and my friends went to a bar and then to our hotels. Right after I got to my room this woman texted me and asked if I wanted to come have some more drinks with her. She was at a place close to my hotel, so sure, I agreed. I went back out expecting to see her and her friends, but it was just her. I don't even think I finished my drink by the time we were heading back to my hotel. It was awesome. When we got back home, she started coming over to my house during the day. I have a flexible job and most days work from my house. She travels around the area for her job, so she had time to come over during the day. She'd come over after my kids went to school and left before they got home. Some days she was at my house almost the whole time my kids were at school. Even if it wasn't my time with the kids she was there during the same time. Never at night and never during the weekends. It was just a friends with benefits type relationship. That was perfect for me. I was involved with my kids, even coaching 2 of their teams, so it never interfered with my time with them or my friends. Also, I wasn't looking for a relationship and definitely didn't want a relationship with someone that young that may want kids. I'm done having kids. I was upfront with her about how I felt, and she was fine with it. She said she wasn't looking for a relationship either. This went on for almost a year. Eventually I met someone, my now wife, and broke it off with her. She was fine with that too. We never texted each other again. A year after I met my wife we got married. 2 years ago, I met this woman again at a neighborhood gathering. Me and my wife were introduced to her and her husband by a friend of mine. They had recently bought the house right next to his. When we first saw each other, it wasn't awkward or anything. We just smiled and said hi. I told my wife about our past when we got home that night. My wife is very understanding. We both accept that we both have had past relationships. No big deal. Her husband turns out to be a pretty cool guy. He starts hanging out with my group of guys friends and we become friends too. This year he joined one of my fantasy football leagues, so he friends me on Facebook. After I friend him, he friends my wife. My wife takes a look at his profile and asks how long ago I was friends with benefits with his wife. It was 5 years ago. She shows me a recent post that says he and his wife have been married 8 years.
Boyfriend is upset that my brother didn't let him spend the night with me when I was very drunk and passed out. I've just turned 18 and can now legally drink where we live. So my brother invited me, my new boyfriend and a few friends and cousins over to hang out and maybe get drunk. I drank way more than I should have. People left one by one and I was only there with my brother and boyfriend. I don't remember much except that I woke up in his spare bedroom in the morning and my boyfriend wasn't there. Apparently I passed out on the couch. My brother took me to the bedroom to sleep. My boyfriend wanted to spend the night there but my brother said no. My brother says he didn't let him stay because he doesn't know him and he didn't know if we've been intimate, and I was completely incapacitated and couldn't consent to anything intimate, so he felt like it's safer to not allow him spend the night there with me. Boyfriend insisted that he didn't want to be intimate, just cuddling. He got confrontational with my brother and accused him of being controlling and said he has no right to decide if he can spend the night with me, which my brother told him I can decide you're not gonna spend another minute in my house. Boyfriend said he'll leave but he'll take me with him. Brother stood in his way and told him to either leave or deal with the police. Then my boyfriend left. So here we are. My brother thinks I'm dating a complete jerk. My boyfriend thinks I have a whole controlling brother and I've spent the last 2 days regretting drinking that much. My own feeling is that it would have been okay if my boyfriend spent the night with me in the bed, but absolutely not okay to be intimate. We haven't been intimate yet, been dating for less than a month. I understand why my brother acted in a protective way. I was drunk and letting a guy who is interested in me spend the night with me is just unnecessary risk. I also understand my boyfriend's disappointment, but he should have respected my brother in his own house. So now my boyfriend has demanded an apology from my brother for being mistrusted and for interfering in his relationship, and my brother had banned him from future events and parties at his place for being a jerk. My boyfriend would also like me to demand an apology on my own behalf from my brother for him acting the way he did, by assuming he can decide who I can or can't spend the night with. I'm in this mess and I need to make this disappear if I am to have some peace and make everything normal again with my relationship and family. What do I say to my boyfriend? I think he needs to drop this and move on, and over time show to my family that his behavior on the night wasn't who he really is to earn their trust. Update, based on the advice of you guys, my parents and my brother, I broke up with my boyfriend, So I asked my boyfriend what he expected to happen that night if he was allowed to spend the night with me. He repeatedly said nothing but let slip that maybe he hoped we'd be intimate in the morning. So you guys were right. He wanted to do it that night with me, and he probably would have if he was allowed to spend the night with me. Even the thought of it gives me a lot of stress. I always knew SA is a danger a lot of women and men face, but never felt it so close to me. Maybe because I've always been with people I trust, I don't know. I never thought it could happen so easily to me. It would have happened to me that night if my brother hadn't protected me the way he did. I'm going to be a lot more careful about my own safety from now on. I won't be as trusting to strangers, and I'm now learning my drinking limits so that I won't overdo it, especially where I might be vulnerable. My brother also told me to never accept a drink from the people I don't 100% trust. Thanks, Reddit. My fiancé spent our entire savings, which we both were saving for our wedding and honeymoon, to buy a gaming PC. What's worse is that ever since he got the PC, he has totally ignored me. He has absolutely forgotten that I even exist in his life. My fiancé and I got engaged in December last year. In January this year, we both together decided to save money every month for our wedding and honeymoon. In 6 months, we saved around $8,000. Last month my fiancé's best friend bought a new gaming PC, so even my fiancé wanted to buy one. So he asked me, but I denied it because we both already had laptops. I told him that he can play games in the laptop that he already has. He repeatedly kept asking me if he could buy a PC, and I finally agreed to it. Now I regret it so badly. After a week, the PC finally came, and with the PC, a new table and chair also was delivered. Apparently he had ordered a gaming chair and a table as well. That night, I asked him how much it all cost, and he was a little hesitant to tell me. After a while he told me, and I was distraught when I heard that he had spent our entire savings of $8,000 to buy the PC. We had a very big argument that night, and I scolded him for spending all our savings because that savings contained not only his money but my money as well, and we were saving it for our wedding. After everything I told him, his final reply was, "I will earn it all back soon." I don't trust those words at all. I thought anything worse than this couldn't happen at this moment, but it has. It has been about 2 weeks since he got the PC, and since then, my fiancé hasn't gotten up from his new chair. Ever since he got the PC he hasn't even seen my face. The only time he talks to me is when he is hungry. He calls to me and tells me to get him something to eat and drink. I call him to watch TV and he denies it, saying that he's busy. I call him to sleep together and he denies it and says that he'll sleep later. His sleep schedule has been messed up. He plays games the whole night and sleeps at 5 a.m. and wakes up at 2 p.m. He's asleep when I'm awake and he's awake when I'm asleep. From the past 2 weeks I've been so lonely that it feels like I'm alone at home and nobody to even talk to. He is ignoring me so much that I think he has absolutely forgotten that I even exist in his life. I honestly feel like his waitress nowadays because from the past 2 weeks, the only interaction we both have is him asking for food and water and me giving it to him. He has also 100% stopped doing all the house chores. From the past 2 weeks, I have been the one doing all the house chores and it's getting very hard for me to do it all alone. We used to share our responsibilities and do all the house chores together, but from the past 2 weeks he isn't even taking care of himself. He is barely even brushing his teeth and taking a bath, let alone do the house chores. Also, he is actually supposed to be working from home, but ever since the PC arrived, he hasn't even touched his laptop to work and he isn't even seeing his phone to check if someone has called or texted him anything regarding work. I'm now genuinely afraid that he might lose his job. Everything that is happening right now is so bad. I called my parents and told them about it last night and they almost had nothing to say. I'm thinking of calling his parents tonight and telling it to them, and maybe they can knock some sense into him. I honestly don't know what else to do now. I want to burn that PC. It would be very nice if someone suggested me something about this. Thank you very much for reading this, and thank you very much in advance for your comments and suggestions. My brother got my daughter to open up through Mario Kart. My 32 female brother 26 male was discharged from the Navy 2 weeks ago and my family threw a party to welcome him home. He is an extremely outgoing person and can make anyone smile and laugh. Because he was stationed on 2 aircraft carriers for basically 8 years, he has only met my daughter a handful of times. My daughter, 12 female, is the quietest and shyest person you will ever met. Her father severely abused her as a child and she has extreme trust issues as a result. She only talks to me, her aunt, grandparents, and her best friend. I put her in therapy and she has been making progress, but if you touch her in any way she might have a panic attack. Her social skills are fine, but you need get her to trust you before she feels comfortable around you. I got her a Nintendo Switch for Christmas and she loves it. She is on it 24/7 and she considers it a safe space for her. She does her homework early so she has time to play it and takes it everywhere. She became a little too addicted to the Switch and I had to set some ground rules, but she abides by them and we managed to figure out a healthy amount of time for her to play her games. She recently got into Mario Kart and is currently finding out about all the games in the franchise. My brother has a Wii and gave it to her and she reset the Mario Kart Wii game so she could unlock all the tracks and characters. My brother was a huge Mario Kart fan as a kid. He had every game of the franchise and competed in online tournaments before he went into the Navy. I don't know too much about the game, but I remember him maxing out his account at the 9,999cc, which I think is the highest level you can go. During the party my daughter was sitting next to my sister like usual when she told him her uncle is really into Mario Kart. I walked over and said she should ask him to play after the party, but she shook her head. I pulled her aside and said my brother would not hurt a fly and he is one of the nicest people in the world. She agreed after I said I would be in the same room with them, and after the party ended I asked my brother to play with my daughter and he said yes. She got her Switch and we sat at the table, and 20 minutes later she was laughing and talking like I never saw her before. My brother was trash talking her and she was giving it back to him. They played for an hour before we left and my daughter was sad to see him leave. She told me he's a lot of fun and wants to get to know him more. Since that day my daughter and brother have been spending a lot of time together and her personality has started to develop. She is talking more and is interacting with her classmates. Her English teacher emailed me to say my daughter volunteered to read a paragraph of the book they are reading and she barely stuttered while reading. She wants to try volleyball again in the fall and asked me to sign her up for tryouts. Yesterday she came home and said she played Mario Kart with a couple of her friends during recess and she asked them herself. She never reaches out to people, so I was surprised. My brother has picked her up from school while I was at work a couple times and she finished her homework by the time I picked her up. I used to beg her to do her homework and now she willingly does it. She is breaking out of her shell and it makes me so happy to see. My brother has been a big part of it. He makes her do her homework, then checks it and sees if it's correct, then they play Mario Kart or they play cards or he teaches her how to throw a ball. I am a little ashamed to say this, but I kind of hope my brother builds a connection with her and she sees him as a positive male role model in her life. She certainly is not going to receive that from her father. Having my brother back home is awesome, but seeing my daughter and her uncle connect warms my heart.
My wife thinks she is no longer bi, only gay, and wants to divorce. My wife and I have been together for 12 years, married for 2. Over the last 3 weeks she has kept me at a distance, before coming home last week and dropping the bombshell that she caught feelings for a mutual, 27 female, friend of ours. She thinks she is no longer bi, but only gay, and wants a divorce. She says that the feeling of attraction was so much stronger and intense, that she questions if she was ever attracted to me in the first place. Up until this point, we had a pretty solid home life and lovemaking life. We had a few issues caused by my ADHD, and sometimes I would do something her autism did not like, but otherwise we did not have any major fights, financially trusting and stable, and made love a few times a week on average. Over the past few years, we've even developed a bit of a dom-sub relationship, as she enjoyed being submissive in the bedroom. She loved when I touched her hair, gave massages, when I wore a suit, called her baby girl, or when I leaned against the doorway in a certain way that got a look in her eye that she wanted me then and there. I am at a complete loss. Up until a few weeks ago, we had always told each other it was us against the world forever, no matter what. We've been through family deaths and job losses together, and we even started our life together when we finished high school and went through college. I don't know how to even begin processing this. I had to beg for even 2 weeks to try and confirm feelings, go to couples counseling, and look into options together as a couple. That 2-week period will be over on June 2nd. I don't think it is nearly enough time to even begin digging into this together, and I don't know how to begin to process this or what our options are. I don't want to throw away a 12-year relationship as hasty as she seems to want to. I also do not want to be dismissive and misogynistic by asking her if she is sure or not, wanting to immediately accept this drastic change in identity and the claim that potentially none of her feelings for me were real, since up until now she was extremely confident that she was either bi or even pan, as she was attracted to not only men, but men, trans women, and non-binaries as well, heck, even monsters like vampires and werewolves. But at the same time, it feels impossible to accept that over the course of a few weeks, we could go from a fully committed relationship to her questioning if she ever loved me at all. Could limerence and the excitement of being with a woman be enough to question her love for me? Is there a possibility of those feelings for me returning? How do I ask for more time for us to explore these things together? I would like to believe that even if her attraction to me is not as intense as it was for the woman, that it's still real and doesn't mean she doesn't love me at all, or that our established relationship just isn't as exciting as the prospect of this new one. Has anyone ever been through this before? Most of our friend group we've built together since we moved to this city together. Her family is my family. She is pretty much my entire world since we've built our life together for the last 12 years. Heck, when we got married, she didn't want to change her name to mine since we are more connected to hers. So I was going to change my name this year for our anniversary. Now everything is in question. My entire life is in question, and I don't think I can live without her. I only ever wanted her in the life we built and shared together. I've started therapy in addition to the couples counseling she reluctantly agreed to, but my insurance is through her work since I lost my job last year and my new job doesn't have as good of insurance as my old one. So if this does happen, I won't even be able to afford the therapy to climb out of the hole. How do I even begin to process this information? Our entire life completely changed virtually overnight. Is there even a tiny chance we can find the happiness we shared again?